Hello and welcome back to the No Ball Knowledge Podcast. For today, we're going to be doing a round of 32 review and a round of 16 preview. And the first game is Canada facing off versus Morocco. Morocco beating Netherlands on penalties. Yali, a team that, for Netherlands in particular, that we thought was going to make it very far into this World Cup. Unfortunately, Ronald Koeman changed his plans and his entire system, and that's how Morocco get through. But credit to Morocco, they took care of the business there, and probably for one of the first times ever, they're actually one of the favorites going into a World Cup match. What are your thoughts on this particular game? And Morocco, are they going to have another opportunity to make a very deep World Cup run?
Yeah, this game is actually very interesting to me just because I think Morocco is actually the favorites. Everybody's
Yeah,
expecting them to go through. Because it's kind of funny because everybody's like super hyped on Morocco, but then yeah, when they go up against another big nation, they're like, oh, okay, they might actually lose, against like Brazil or the Netherlands, but here it's completely different. It's sort of that time where you think, okay, Morocco, we're all expecting in the quarterfinals. But let's see. I think Canada is a gritty team, but I just think Morocco's experience and just quality in the players gonna show up, and
yeah.
they should be through in this game.
They should. They should. France faces up against Paraguay. Paraguay, who absolutely, beat Germany, and Germany with an incredibly embarrassing World Cup. I mean, yeah, we talked about in our review, kind of the lack of real German quality, and I was thinking about it the other day, and I'm so glad we're speaking about it now. When you look at over the last 10 years of like who we thought the next generation of German stars were going to be, you had Mario Götze, you had Julian Draxler, you had Kai Havertz, you had Timo Werner, right? And none of them really kind of, reached the levels that we were all expecting. A lot of those players as well, Florian Wirtz now, for example, have left Germany and I've never really been allowed to kick on. And so I think that the German Federation as a whole needs to kind of look at why our young stars haven't developed and why they haven't reached the heights. We've seen Bayern focus more so on transfers as opposed to player development. And so a lot of big changes need to happen for this German Federation to kind of bring German football back to the heights that it needs to be at. But credit to Paraguay and taking care of business, being gritty, being defensive, and taking putting away the chances when they got them. And they're going to have to do a very similar job if they have any hope against France. But I think France is just going to have way too much attacking talent and way too much stardom, and that's exactly what Germany was lacking.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about this game is that at least I feel like Paraguay's not gonna be uncomfortable at any point because they kind of know what they're walking into.
Yeah, they need to do.
So, but let's be honest, I feel like Paraguay's World Cup was knocking out Germany. They're gonna come here and this is pretty much an extra for them. I do think
Yeah,
the game is gonna be more greedy than people expect. I feel like a lot of neutrals will probably expect like a 4-0 trashing or something like that. I don't think it's gonna
yeah.
be like that. I think it'll probably be like a 2-0. Paraguay, like we'll see. Let's be honest. Let's see for how long can they hold on, right? That's kind of like now they pretty much have to play like a 4-quarter game, right? Survive until the first cooling break, then survive until halftime. Let's see how that goes. But believe it or not, I'm probably one of the only people that are actually interested in that game because I want to see how those guys defend, and let's see if France sort of chaotic way of attacking kind of plays out against a
Plays
team
into
like
their
this
hands.
where
Mm.
yeah, where it's like, okay, like, they know they're gonna be waiting for you. They know they're not to defend, and it's not gonna be like a European team where they kind of just gonna open themselves in the back. So I'm actually interested to see this game. Hopefully, it's not over by the first cooling break.
Yeah, we shall see. But regardless, fantastic World Cup from Paraguay. USA versus off against Belgium, who beat Senegal essentially in the last 3 minutes of regular time. Then a controversial VAR decision allowed them to take that final penalty and win the game. Absolutely terrible lack of professionalism there from Senegal, who pretty much had the game locked down. But credit to Belgium for sticking it through. And the Americans are looking very good and had a controversial VAR decision of their own with the sending off of Florian Balogun, who's unfortunately not going to be able to play for this game. Now, yeah, before the World Cup started, we had the Americans exiting out to Belgium in this particular round. But given the way that things have been developing and the way that both teams are looking, I think both you and I would have given the edge to the Americans. But now with Balogun being out, who scored 3 games for them, who's been probably their best player of the tournament so far, massive loss for the Americans. And I think that game became a lot more, tight than, people were initially expecting before that sending off. And so just how big of a loss is Balogun going to be for the Americans, and is that going to be the difference maker whether or not they advance into the next round?
I think this is probably the biggest loss that they could have had. Let's be honest. And I believe if the Americans do not advance, I mean, we cannot predict the future,
Yeah,
but I see it in a way they don't advance because the Americans don't score goals, and that will be hugely impacted by him not being there. I
Yeah,
think had he been fine to play this game, I think the USA would have been a comfortable favorite in this game. Just
yeah,
given the fact of how they've been playing, home soil, where the game is gonna take place. Let's be honest, Belgium has been an absolute joke. Nobody knows how they're even in this game. They should
yeah,
have lost like it's Senegal easily. And I think when you lose Balogun, I mean, I wouldn't go as far as to say he's the best player on the team because I think Pulisic is clearly the best player in the team. But he's definitely the player on form. He is the best player in this tournament, and he is the player getting the goals. He is the player that's the offensive danger because
yeah,
he's hit the post so many times. Even if I'm not mistaken, the USA has two own goals in the first two games, and there were goals where the ball was going to him. They were sort
yeah,
of, he had an impact there. So I think this is huge. I still believe the USA will find a way to get through. But if you ask me right now, I do think it's kind of crazy because if he was playing, I think the USA would have been, like I said, a clear favorite. I think they're a slight underdog now because you think about it, and I ask you, Javi, where are the goals going to come from?
yeah.
Because Pulisic is not
And
on
it's
form,
also
and you have
so yeah,
Dest.
Pulisic isn't on form, yeah, and Dest is playing right wing, and but it's also like what he gave to them because he runs the channels, but he also knows how to back up into the defender and collect the ball. He's good on the press. Two out of his three goals have come from his left foot, so it shows you that he's good on either side. You know, he makes decent runs. He's the target man. So much runs through him. I mean, it's significant loss to the attack. And when you have a fullback playing as right wing, yeah, you're right. Like, where are the goals going to come from? And it's not like they have a midfield that also gets a lot of goals. Like, you know, they're scrappy, but I think they're much more there to like recover the ball and, you know, maintain a high intensity. So, yeah, what a loss, man. What a loss.
Huge, huge loss. Huge.
Yeah. Huge. Speaking about a huge loss, Croatia experienced a huge loss versus Portugal, down to two very controversial VAR decisions. Spain beat Austria quite comfortably, found their rhythm and form again after a very slow start to the World Cup, but some would argue Portugal shouldn't even be in this particular, you know, game. And I would have to agree with that. I think very, very soft penalty, which Ronaldo put away, and then a very controversial offside with VAR intervening. Apparently, a sensor in the ball noticed that a strand of hair touched it. And yeah, I'm all for technology in the game, but for whatever reasons, FIFA and this sport as a whole has not found a way to comfortably integrate it. The Americans with basketball, American football, and baseball have been using it now for decades and it's worked fantastically. And yet, for whatever reason, this seems to be the only sport that, you know, with technology getting involved to clear up decisions, it's created more controversy than ever. I mean, my own eyes saw that ball. There was no change in the direction, no change in the spin. I don't see how that player touched it at all, but I'm supposed to believe a little sensor that I've never even seen how it works over my own eyes. I struggle with that. And not only that, I think Croatia by far was a better team in terms of how they were playing. Take the goals and the decisions apart, just from what I was seeing on the pitch. I think they were the better team. And because of that, I think Spain should be able to take care of Portugal quite comfortably, which was crazy to say going into this World Cup. But just from what I'm seeing from both of these teams, what I've seen from a Portugal team that has not impressed me at all, I have Spain as a favorite going into this game and taking care of Portugal.
Yeah, Spain is a favorite, but I think it's gonna be a close game. I think it'll be a close game. I think these are two teams that know each other. They played each other recently in the Nations League. I mean, Portugal won on penalties. When it comes to the Croatia game, I feel like FIFA could have handled at least the censor part so much better. What I mean, I'm not gonna come in here. I agree with you. I don't see anything. I mean, why should we even believe the censor? But I mean, if we're not gonna believe the censor, I mean, why would we even watch the games, right? So let's give them the benefit of the doubt. Like when it comes to censor, for me, what drives me kind of crazy is if your censor is there and it says that he touched the ball. Why does the guy need to go to bar for what? What is he looking at a bar? You tell him, hey, offside. That's it. Just like when they do the semi-automatic that the guy doesn't have to go look at anything.
Yeah,
It's the same thing here. It's like, hey, the sensor doesn't touch it. He's offside. He's offside. You don't need to do all that. So I feel like when they do things like that, they kind of question stuff because we're like, once again, I'm asking you, Javi, when he goes to board, what is he looking at?
I don't know. And
Because you
so, so,
can't tell if he's
so,
glitching
is
or
it
not.
showmanship? Is it for the cameras?
It,
Is it for the fans? Like, what
exactly.
is it?
Yeah.
So, like, what is it?
Like, what is the point of that? So at the end of the day, I mean, at least from this side, I look at it and I say, I mean, it doesn't even make sense. What you're trying to sell to me doesn't even make sense because you're not selling it the right way. It's like, I don't know, like if you go to a store and you're trying to buy, I don't know, a pair of shoes, and then they're like, "Oh man, don't buy those shoes because like if you put like fire on them or something, it's like it doesn't make sense. You don't need to do
Yeah.
this. Like you could literally just be like, oh, outside, but you go to bar to look at something. I don't know. Yeah, it's man, but heartbreaking for Croatia. That was tough. I mean, how many goals did they get like this allowed? 2 goals, I think, or something like that. Two,
Yeah,
three
2 goals
goals.
got disallowed, and then, a goal granted to Portugal that was never a pen in my eyes. I mean, just what a
Tough,
they
tough.
lost to VAR. They didn't lose to Portugal, they lost to VAR, and that's
Yeah.
unfortunate at a World Cup that comes once every 4 years. This isn't a league game where you have another one in 3 days. This is once every 4 years. So terrible. Brazil faces off against Norway, and yeah, this I think is probably one of the games I'm looking at, like, with so much more excitement than I was previously. Norway right now, I think, are playing with an absolute freedom. Their original goal was just to qualify for the World Cup. Then the next objective came to just get through to the next round. They changed their entire team, didn't even care about winning the group. In fact, Erling Haaland himself said in an interview, "We'll probably lose to France, and France will probably go on to win the tournament." These guys right now, I think, are playing with an absolute freedom and enjoyment, whereas the pressure is on Brazil to try to do something at this World Cup. Is that going to have any bearing at all going into this game, with Brazil obviously having the better talent, or is this the kind of game that Brazil should show their pedigree, show their heritage, and take care of Norway fairly easily? What are your thoughts?
Um, I think, like I said, if I'm not mistaken, I said it with the Spain and Austria game that the first couple of minutes was going to be huge. I feel the same way here. I feel if
Mm,
Norway kind of survived those first couple of minutes, we might be in for something because Brazil, I mean, Brazil is obviously like the better team overall, but I don't see that many match winners all over the pitch. Other than Vinicius, is like, okay, it's
yeah,
just kind of him. So it's like, he's been on great form, by the way. So, we have to see how he shows up and he does that. But yeah, I agree. I feel like Norway's pretty much playing with house money. Brazil, obviously, being Brazil, they have the pressure of being the biggest nation ever. And when it comes to these games, as time passes and the score line is the same, you see one team that's like the doubt starts to creep in, and then another one that just feels better in that situation. I still kind of expect Brazil to go through, but I think it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be a
it's
close
going to be an
game,
interesting game.
and Brazil has been getting knocked out by European nations going back to times 2006. Every time they face a European nation in the knockouts, they get knocked out. So it's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And another game is going to be very interesting is going to be Mexico versus England at the Azteca. Now, we had Ecuador beating Mexico. We were wrong in that. One of the reasons why was because we knew Ecuador was capable of handling the conditions. Ecuador's own stadium is actually 9,000 feet above sea level, I think. The Azteca sits at 7,000 feet above sea level, so over a mile and a half. And according to reports, Thomas Tuchel is actually going to only get there a day before, 2 days before, because he's afraid of the Mexican fans disrupting the training, spying, fireworks in the hotel to not let the players rest. And so, like, the question is England going to be able to acclimatize itself to this altitude? This is going to affect them a lot. Anybody who's ever been in these high altitudes knows that you need at least 2, 3 weeks to acclimatize and get used to it there. Is England going to have the legs, going to have the lungs to be able to see it all the way through? Some England fans, yeah, they are even calling for the likes of Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham and some of the stars to not even start the game, to come on in the 60th minute, almost focus on containment, and let the stars then come on. So it's going to be a game of attrition, I think, for the English. As that game goes on, if the result stays tight, I think the Mexicans could edge it. So for the English, it's either a matter of containment and then bring on your stars, or try to see the game out early and then hold on. So that's going to be a very interesting one. I would give the slight edge to the English just because of the talent alone, but I mean the conditions for this is going to make this a very interesting watch. So that's going to be incredible to see, and I'm very interested in seeing what Thomas Tuchel's plan is going to be for the altitude and adjustment, if at all. But what a game that we're going to be witnessing there. Switzerland faces off against Colombia, and I think Colombia should be taking care of Switzerland, if we're not mistaken there. And then Argentina, despite, kind of wobbling there against Cape Verde, should be taking care against of Egypt, who took care of Australia on penalties. So to round it off, or to go through, we have Morocco, France, the USA, Spain, Brazil, England, Colombia, and Argentina. From our previous round of 32, I think was it 13 out of the 16 games right? I think the ones that we got wrong were Ecuador, Mexico, Germany, Paraguay, Netherlands, Morocco. I think everything else we predicted correctly. So not bad, but not great. Let's see if we're right on this one. And of course, let us know your thoughts. Let us know what you guys think. Any surprise upsets. And of course, we'd love to hear your thoughts on some of the big games as well. We're going to be doing individual previews for the likes of the USA, Belgium, Portugal, Spain, Brazil, Norway, and Mexico, England games. We're going to give a much in-depth analysis and discussions on both teams, their World Cup so far, and the matchups that we're going to be seeing, what the factors that we expect to come to fruition that are going to ultimately affect the outcome of the game. So keep an eye out for that. And of course, watch our other videos in the channel. Let us know what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.